Don't let one bad leg haunt your parlay. Parlays turn into payouts, and now even near misses won't haunt your bet. The NFL season is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is rewriting the rules with Ghost Leg, a new game-changing promotion that turns close calls into cold, hard cash. Best of all, it's available to all DraftKings customers. Here's how it works. Build any 3+ leg pregame NFL parlay on Sunday, apply your Ghost Leg token, and if one leg loses, DraftKings makes it vanish like it never existed and pays you out in cash for the rest. Last season, over 30 million parlays were lost by a single leg. This year, Ghost Leg gives those busted bets a second life. No more busted parlays that haunt you all season. With Ghost Leg, the bad leg vanishes. The payout doesn't. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to unlock Ghost Leg, the promotion that makes one bad leg disappear and pays you out in real cash. Ghost your losses, get your payout in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Another massive game Saturday night between Florida and number 3 LSU, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Really, Dalton, Florida is desperate for a massive win right now because they're 8-5 last year. They entered year 4 of the Billy Napier era with college football playoff aspirations. The Gators returned plenty of talent from last year's team, including a sophomore quarterback in DJ Lagway. They entered the year number 15 in the AP poll, the first time they were ranked in the preseason poll in 4 years. But those playoff hopes were quickly dashed in week 2 when the Gators were upset at home by an unranked team at the time in USF. Now Florida is staring down the barrel of one of the hardest remaining schedules in college football. I believe right now it's the 3rd hardest remaining schedule in PFF's power rankings. And they start off with number 3 LSU on the road. Another loss for Florida would put the Gators at 1-2 on the season and increase the pressure even more on head coach Billy Napier. So LSU, who looked really good against Clemson in week 1, they won that game. They beat Louisiana Tech in week 2 too. LSU right now looks like the favorite to win the SEC this year. If Florida can pull off a massive upset victory, they get their season back on track.
Yeah, you got to go to. Are they calling it the real Death Valley now for the time being? Is that what they're doing? No, the Gators. I mean, you look at this and you go now. Yeah, every game's a must-win because they're all big. You only get 12 of them, but you're at LSU. If you lose this game, you're 1-2. Then you're going to Miami. Okay, and then who knows? Miami looks pretty good. Then you're playing Texas. That's still a darn good football team. Then if after Texas you're going to Texas A&M, the gauntlet doesn't end here. Apparently the gauntlet started with USF, and now it just started a week earlier than they thought. Florida always had this schedule going, but boy, oh boy, I mean they need to figure it out because LSU looks like they're rolling and their defense looks a lot better, and the Gators have lost 6 of the last 7 in Baton Rouge. They've got to find it. It's gut check time for the Florida Gators, I think, a lot sooner than they thought was coming.
So you have the Florida offense in this game, which looked really sluggish in their 18-16 loss to USF last week, going up against an LSU defense that looked really good in week 1 against Clemson. What should we know when the Gators have the ball here?
Really good and really different from what we're used to. 1, not giving up explosive pass plays. That's big. The transfers in the secondary, especially Mansour Delane at cornerback from Virginia Tech, they look good so far on the secondary, a lot better than they have the last 2 years. The second bit of that is complementing. You know, the defensive coordinators are always talking about marrying the front with the back, right? They're marrying it up front right now because Blake Baker's just blitzing like crazy now. He's gotten to a top 10 blitz rate this year. I believe last year it was outside the top 50. You're talking about Blake Baker. The reason that LSU through 2 games, a big reason that they haven't given up a deep completion yet, is that he is forcing quarterbacks to get it out before they can't even hold the ball long enough. It's exactly why Cade Klubnik struggled in that Clemson game, is that he didn't have enough time to sling it downfield like he wanted to, and then he didn't have enough answers for the pressure coming in all different directions. You don't know where Whit Weeks is coming from. You don't know where Harold Perkins is coming from playing that star position. The defensive line is playing well. Then they're covering well with Delane and Halsey and those guys on the back end. You got a freaking of a 6'5" corner and DJ Pickett out there sometimes. First in the nation. They have the most pressures in the nation when running blitzes right now through week 2. right? This is what Blake Baker's gone all pressure. He's trusting those guys on the back end. He's rushing quarterbacks. And I think with Lagway, you look at last week, DJ Lagway didn't play that well last week, and there was no pressure at all. Only 3 times he was pressured the whole game by USF. Now you're getting a team with studs on defense, with blitz packages from all over the place. And he's got to figure out how to manage through that while also kind of still struggling a bit with his underneath accuracy, because really the way that you have to beat pressure, right, a lot of times is throw it right over it and get it out quickly. Lagway's not doing that yet, and he's not doing it accurately. I'm extremely worried about, and Florida's got a very good offensive line. Jake Slaughter and those guys, boy, they're going to be under the gun in this one.
Yeah.
Because mentally picking up all these blitzes and protections and making sure everything's checked out up front. Billy Napier still calling plays. He's got to get all his homework done and all these blitz packages, and I'm sure Blake Baker's coming up with something new. But this is a huge problem for me. Is what just different looks, especially in obvious 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, that Blake Baker's going to throw at DJ Lagway, with his players on the back end also playing really well.
Definitely. So your matchup to watch is how will Florida handle the pressure from LSU? Mine is, can Florida get Garrett Nussmeier under pressure in this game? Because heading into this season, the biggest strength of Florida's defense was their defensive line. And the biggest question mark for LSU's offense was the offensive line. The Gators entered the year by number 4 D-line in the country, and LSU lost 4 starters from their offensive line last year. All 4 of them were taken in the 2025 NFL Draft. But so far through 2 weeks, those 2 seem to have flipped. Florida right now is only 74th in team pass rush grade, despite facing an FCS team in Long Island University and USF in week 2. LSU, meanwhile, is 31st in the country in pass blocking grade, even though its first game of the year was against my number 1 defensive line in the country in Clemson. They played really well in that game too, but also a theme of that game was how quickly Garrett Nussmeier got rid of the football. His average time to throw in that game was a blistering 2.09 seconds. The average for most quarterbacks is around 2.7, 2.8 seconds. Garrett Nussmeier, again, only about 2.1 seconds in that win over Clemson. He hardly ever gave the Clemson defensive line a chance to get home in that one. LSU might also employ a similar strategy this week against a Florida defensive line that's very talented still. With Caleb Banks there, Tyreek Sapp, and other guys in that defensive line. They still might try to get rid of the football very, very quickly in this game so that Florida can never get Garrett Nussmeier under consistent pressure.
And that would be an adjustment from last year, because last year in this game, Nussmeier had a 3-second average time to throw. Granted, they were trying to come back late. They were dropping back. They didn't have any run game to speak of in this game against Florida last year, and Florida hit the home runs that they wanted to against LSU's secondary. But again, I think that is similar, a very similar motif to what you saw against Clemson. Which quarterback has an answer for pressure? Nussmeier against Clemson absolutely had it. He sees the field like an NFL quarterback. Does Lagway have that in the same way against Blake Baker? Nussmeier, we saw it already once. 2.1 average time to throw against Clemson. Big time. That was my favorite stat from that game, because it's just, okay, if they can't protect me, I will protect myself. And he's perfectly okay with that. I think that's a big factor in it. Florida's got to dominate up front. But there's also a part where Nussmeier, you got to cover well on the back end too, because he can just get rid of it before you get there anyway.
So will Florida get their season back on track with an upset win over LSU, or will LSU continue to show why they're one of the best teams in college football with a big win against Florida?
I do think Florida's going to come out with a high level of urgency because they know what's at stake in this game, but that's such a tough environment to go into. They've lost 6 of the last 7 in Baton Rouge. It's a night game at Death Valley, the real Death Valley, I guess, of this year. I think they're going to come out with urgency. I do. But the improvements this LSU defense has made, I think is a real problem now for the Gators. Because even if you look at Florida's offense in last year's game between these two, they hit like 3 or 4 home runs that kind of set everything up. But LSU, I don't think, played as bad a defensive game as you might think. I think this is real improvement. I think the scheme is really improved. The players are really improved. At the end of the day, I actually think LSU is going to play a really solid defensive game as well, and then manufacture enough offense. I've got LSU 34-20. I really think Florida, they're searching for answers a little bit right now, and you don't want to be at that stage already, having played USF. right, and lost to USF at home. I mean, this is not going to be a fun environment they're walking into. I think Lagway will be game. There's probably going to be maybe a couple home runs that he does hit. If he doesn't, this could get away from you really quick offensively if you're Florida. I think you really have to get him some easy throws early in the game to get him in a rhythm, but the blitz packages I think are too much. I'm taking LSU.
I have LSU as well, 28-21. I think Florida will lose a second straight game this year. I think Garrett Nussmeier, like the Clemson game, will find quick answers for Florida's pressure in this one. And also on the other side, DJ Lagway could have a lot of issues figuring out Blake Baker's exotic blitz packages. We saw Kate Klubnik look like a shell of himself in that game against LSU's defense with all the blitzes he was sending at him. I'm worried for a young quarterback in DJ Lagway handling those kind of blitzes in this one too. Even though Florida's offensive line has been outstanding so far, but even so, I still think Lagway could struggle.
Well, can he get rid of it quickly? Can he get rid? Just sometimes, dude, don't look for the home run every single play. You saw it last week sometimes against USF. You're holding the football too long. You've got to get rid of the ball in a game like this against a defense coordinator like this.
We have an LSU fan in the chat saying, wow, unbelievable. They picked LSU after not picking them in week one.
Well, the new data comes around.
Win some, you lose some, yeah.
Some people change.
He goes, they really hate LSU. They're taking their sweet time getting to this game. Unfortunately, we had so many games to get to. We're going in order of the time they play.
Yeah.
So blame the schedule.
Yeah, play at noon. Play at noon more often.
If they were at noon, we would have done like the first second game.
Play on Thursday. We'll get to you first.
He's got LSU by 14 plus, by the way. So love that. Yeah, you also had LSU by.
He threw the
14.
plus on there. I had 14 exactly. Threw the plus.
He's going plus.
Gave a little leeway. Okay.
But big game in Baton Rouge on Saturday night between Florida and LSU.